Chosen one. Listen closely. Everything around you has quieted, not by chance, but because heaven has stilled its breath. The angels lean in. The courts of eternity have silenced their proclamations. Even creation seems to pause, waiting for what comes next in your story. This is not ordinary. This is holy ground. You have passed a test that few survive. A test that strips away the false and reveals what is eternal. I see you standing there, perhaps in the quiet of your room, perhaps under the weight of invisible battles you thought would never end. You didn't just endure, you held the line when it would have been easier to step back. In the realm you cannot see, the verdict has been given. You are found faithful. Let me tell you about one of the chosen who came before you. She was a young woman in a small, forgotten village. For 3 years, her prayers seemed unanswered. Her friends moved forward. Her dreams grew dim, and the night seemed endless. But she would whisper each morning, "I still choose you, Lord." Even when her heart felt numb, one night, in that very stillness, she felt as though the walls of her small home disappeared. In their place was a vast open field, and a voice, deep and warm, simply said, "You passed." From that day, doors opened she hadn't even knocked on, and people were drawn to the peace she carried. Chosen one. Your season may have felt like hers long, silent, unremarkable in the eyes of the world. But the unseen has been shaken because of your obedience. When the world saw nothing, heaven saw everything. The voice of God thundered in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 7. The Lord will grant that the enemies who rise up against you will be defeated before you. They will come at you from one direction, but flee from you in 7. The valley you just came through was not proof of God's absence, it was proof of His trust. He trusted you with silence. He trusted you with uncertainty. And you proved that your worship was not for sale. This is why heaven stands with you now. Imagine yourself as a ship that has sailed through a storm so fierce, the sails tore and the hull groaned under the waves. And yet, now, you stand in calm waters, the sunlight breaking through, the crew gathering to embrace you, knowing you brought them safely across. That's how the hosts of heaven see you now, victorious, steadfast, still bearing the mark of the storm, but unbroken. Or perhaps picture yourself as a candle left in the wind, flickering, threatened, but never extinguished. The darkness tried to swallow you, but could not. Now that same flame will be used to light others. This is the moment to let your light be seen, not with pride, but with the certainty that your testimony has weight. The scars you carry are not shame, they are signatures of heaven's approval. The enemy tried to take you out, but your story will now take others in. This is why I urge you, share this message. Like it, so that others may find it. Comment with your own, "I have passed," so that your declaration becomes a beacon. And subscribe, so that you remain connected to this stream of life-giving words. Heaven does not waste moments like these. It multiplies them through those willing to declare them. Your obedience has shifted something not just in your life, but in the atmosphere around you. You carry an authority you did not have before. When you speak now, it will be like the strike of a match in a room that has waited too long for light. So, chosen one, lift your head. Stand tall. You are no longer merely surviving. You are the one who stood when others fell. And the one who watched you in the valley is now walking beside you in the open field of your next season. If you know this word is for you, write the number 888 the comments now as a prophetic act declaring, I have passed, and heaven stands with me. Nah, if you know this word is speaking straight to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Let it become the lamp that lights another's path. Someone out there might be standing right where you just came from, tired, confused, and in desperate need of hope. Your testimony can be the rope that pulls them closer to the light. You remember the final blow. It didn't come softly, and it didn't come when you were expecting it. It arrived at the very moment you thought perhaps the storm was finally subsiding. Like the snap of a whip in the darkness, the enemy launched what he believed would be his finishing strike. But it failed. This was not because you were the strongest in your own power. It was because you had learned, sometimes painfully, to anchor yourself to something that could not be moved. That last attack was designed to make you question everything: your faith, your worth, your calling. It was crafted to dismantle the foundation beneath you. And yet, when it hit, it found a wall reinforced by years of surrender, tears, prayers, and obedience. There was a moment in that battle when you felt the air around you grow heavy. It seemed the very atmosphere was pressing in. Thoughts swirled, thoughts that were not yours but sounded close enough to be convincing. Why keep going? What if you've been wrong all along? What if none of this matters? These were not idle whispers. They were weapons aimed at your resolve. But deep within, there was another voice. Quieter, steadier, unshaken. It reminded you of the times before when you thought you couldn't take another step. Yet somehow you did. It reminded you of the nights when the only prayer you could offer was your tears. And yet the dawn still came. It told you that this, too, would pass. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 10, though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love for you will not be shaken, nor my covenant of peace be removed, says the Lord, who has compassion on you. I think of a warrior in ancient times, standing in the gap of a broken wall while the enemy surged forward, his shield battered, his sword dulled from countless strikes. Yet he did not step aside. He planted his feet in the breach and decided that even if this was his last stand, it would be a stand. That's what you did. In that moment, you became the one who would not move, and the enemy knew it. Something in that final attack exposed his own defeat. There is a strange kind of silence that follows a failed strike, like the pause when a predator realizes its prey will not be taken. You felt that silence. You did not know it then. But in the unseen realm, the final blow had a different effect than intended. It became the very evidence of your unshakable faith. You didn't crumble. You didn't run. You didn't bargain your way out of obedience. Instead, you absorbed the hit and still stood. That is why heaven's armies have shifted their formation, not to guard you from falling, but to walk with you as one proven in battle. Consider a tree that has endured 1,000 storms. Its bark bears scars. Its branches have broken and regrown. Its roots stretch deep into the earth. A sudden gust might shake the leaves, but it cannot uproot what is anchored so deep. That's who you are now. The storm that was meant to uproot you has instead revealed how deeply you are planted. There's a truth here that often goes unnoticed. The enemy's most violent attack often comes right before a divine promotion. It's not coincidence, it's desperation. He knows he has lost the long game and tries to deliver a decisive blow in the short term. But when that blow fails, as it did with you, something shifts permanently. You move from under attack to out of reach. I think of an artisan forging a sword. The final stage is the most intense heat, followed by the most sudden cooling. It is this last moment that determines whether the blade will be brittle or battle-ready. You, chosen one, have come through that final forging. The strike was the heat. The aftermath was the cooling. And now you are not just a survivor, you are a weapon in the hands of the king. And perhaps the greatest irony of all is that you didn't even see the victory right away. You still felt tired, still carried questions, still wondered what all of it was for. But in the higher courts, the judgment was already sealed. You passed the test. The final blow did not take you out, it took you forward. And the sound of its failure still echoes in the corridors of darkness, a reminder to the enemy that you are not the one to be trifled with. The silence after the storm is unlike any other sound. It is not merely the absence of noise, it carries a weight, a depth, as though even the air itself remembers what just happened. You stand there, breathing slowly, your senses still sharp from battle. Yet something inside knows the fight has shifted. In those first moments of stillness, you notice things you couldn't see before. The clouds overhead begin to part. The heaviness in your chest loosens. You realize that the constant pressure you had grown accustomed to is gone. What remains is a strange, holy quiet, like the earth after heavy rain when the ground exhales and the scent of renewal rises. This quiet is not empty. It is full of meaning. In the unseen realm, this stillness is the sound of heaven's approval. It is the pause between the verdict and the celebration. The judge has spoken. You stood your ground. And the enemy's case against you has been dismissed. I think of the shepherd boy David after facing Goliath. The crowd erupted later. But in that very first moment when the giant fell, there must have been a breathless silence. A moment where time seemed suspended. That's where you are now. In the hush that comes right after a decisive victory. There is a reason God sometimes lets you feel this pause. It is to remind you that peace is not simply the absence of struggle. It is His presence settling over you like a mantle. This peace is an announcement to every power, seen and unseen, that your season has shifted. According to what is revealed in the book of Zephaniah, chapter 3, verse 17. The Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves. He will take great delight in you. In His love, He will no longer rebuke you, but will rejoice over you with singing. Then you may wonder why the stillness feels so tangible. It's because the battle was not just around you, it was within you. And now, that inner storm has been calmed. Your thoughts are clearer. Your spirit is lighter. You can hear the gentle impressions of the Holy Spirit without interference. Imagine standing on a battlefield at dawn, the mist lifting, the ground littered with the weapons of your enemies. No more arrows flying, no more footsteps of those chasing you, just the sound of wind moving through the grass. As though creation itself is acknowledging your perseverance. This is a sacred time, and it's important not to rush past it. Some people, after a great battle, immediately look for the next thing to fight. But you, right now, are meant to stand still and let the reality sink in. You made it. You didn't just survive, you finished standing. So here's what I want you to do. Type "storm over" in the comments. Let it be your personal banner of victory over this season. When you write it, picture those two words flying over your life like a flag in the wind, visible to both heaven and hell. It's more than a comment, it's a proclamation that the trial is behind you, and a new chapter has begun. The quiet will not last forever. Life will call you forward into new assignments, new challenges, and new territory. But the memory of this stillness will remain a reservoir you can return to. Whenever the wind howls again, you'll remember this place and know that the one who brought you through will do it again. This stillness is proof that the storm bowed to your endurance, proof that heaven's warrior has claimed you as his own, proof that the song now being sung over you is not one of mourning, but of triumph. And soon, very soon, the next chapter will begin. And as you step forward from this stillness, carry with you the certainty that it was not just about surviving, it was about transforming. The version of you that entered the storm is not the same as the one now standing in the sunlight. You have gained eyes that can see through deception, ears that can discern the whisper of God, even in chaos, and a heart that knows peace is a weapon in itself. Do not rush this moment. Let it mark you. Let the memory of this holy quiet sink into your bones so deeply that no future wind can uproot it. You are walking out of this battlefield, not as the wounded, but as the proven one whose story will inspire others to stand when their own storms rise. And in time, you will see how even the fiercest waves were only preparing you for the shores ahead. The scroll of the faithful is not a dusty relic kept in some forgotten corner of heaven. It is a living record, written by the hand of the one who sees every unseen act of obedience, every sacrifice no one else noticed, every yes you whispered in the dark when no applause followed. There are moments in eternity when this scroll is unrolled before witnesses, not just angels, but saints who have gone before you, those who also bore the weight of the journey, those who understand the cost. When your name is spoken, it does not echo as a mere sound. It carries the weight of your story. Every trial, every tear, every victory is heard in that single utterance. The unrolling of the scroll is a declaration of belonging. You are not an outsider, not a wanderer hoping to be remembered. You are inscribed into the very record of those who endured. Heaven does not keep names for decoration. It keeps them because they are proof that faith can be lived out to the end. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verse 20, "Rejoice that your names are written in heaven." Lo, I imagine it like a great hall where light flows, not from lamps but from the presence of God himself. In the center stands a table of polished stone, and upon it a scroll bound with a seal that no enemy could ever touch. At the appointed time, the seal is broken, and the parchment rolls open, revealing lines of names that shine as if each letter were forged from liquid gold. And there, your name clear, undeniable, permanent. You may not feel like someone whose name should be in such a place. You may think of the times you stumbled, the moments you doubted, the seasons when you were sure you were too weak to go on. But heaven's record does not list the accusations against you. It records the moments you turned back to the light. It records the fact that you did not give up, even when surrender seemed easier. In the ancient world, names were more than identifiers. They were declarations of identity and destiny. To have your name written was to have your place secured. This is why Jesus told his disciples not to rejoice merely because spirits obeyed them, but because their names were written in heaven. It was a reminder that their true victory was not in visible accomplishments, but in eternal belonging. There is something deeply humbling about this moment. You realize that the story you've been living is not just yours, it is part of a much greater tapestry. Your line in the scroll connects to lines written thousands of years before, to those who walked deserts, crossed seas, faced lions, endured exile, and yet kept their faith intact. And perhaps the most sobering truth is that the scroll will be read again on the day when all creation witnesses the justice of God. In that moment, the record will not just be a private assurance, it will be a public testimony. Those who mocked you will see why you could not be moved. Those who misunderstood you will finally grasp the weight of your calling, and the enemy will hear, in the voice of the judge, that you are counted among the faithful. Picture this, the hall filled with the sound of wings, the air charged with holy anticipation. A name is spoken, and the atmosphere shifts. That name is yours. The declaration rolls out like thunder, not in anger, but in celebration. The sound reaches to the farthest edges of heaven, and with it comes a sense of finality. This is sealed, and nothing can undo it. You do not see it now, but your name carries authority in that realm. It is not merely a label, it is a recognized banner, a sign that you belong to the King and are under his protection. Just as earthly kingdoms had records of their citizens, heaven's scroll marks you as one whose allegiance has been proven beyond question. One day, you will hear it spoken aloud in that place. The sound will not just enter your ears, it will fill every part of you with a joy so pure it will erase the memory of every trial. Until then, you walk knowing that the scroll is real. The record is kept, and the one who writes never forgets. And when that day comes, you will know that every unseen moment, every quiet act of faith, was already celebrated in heaven long before the scroll was unrolled for all to hear. The seal is placed. The scroll is rolled back up, and the sound of heaven's proclamation still lingers in the air. But the story does not stop there, because with recognition comes responsibility, and with honor comes a new level of calling. Heaven never announces your name for sentiment alone. It is a summons. When God affirms your faithfulness before witnesses, it is also his way of saying, "Now, I am sending you further." That seal upon your life is not just proof of endurance, it is a mark of trust. You have been entrusted with something greater than you carried before. I think of the high priests in ancient Israel. Before they could step into the Holy of Holies, their garments had to be prepared, their hearts examined, and a sacred anointing oil poured over them. It was not just for ceremony, it was empowerment. Likewise, when heaven seals you, it is not merely to mark the end of a season, but to set you apart for the next one. According to what is revealed in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 1, verses 21 and 22, "Now it is God who makes both us and you stand firm in Christ. He anointed us, set his seal of ownership on us, and put his Spirit in our hearts as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come." The seal means you are recognized in the spiritual realm. It is visible to angels and to demons. It speaks without words. This one belongs to the Lord. This one carries his authority, and when that seal rests upon you, it changes how battles are fought. Some doors will open without effort, and some enemies will flee before they strike, because they know who has claimed you. Picture a king's envoy entering a foreign land. The seal on his letter is not decoration. It is the proof that he speaks with the king's authority. You, too, walk now with that kind of weight. Every act of obedience you carry forward is backed by the one whose name cannot be challenged. But with this seal also comes the call to steward it well. Just as a crown must be worn with humility, a seal must be carried with integrity. It is not a pass to act without wisdom, but a reminder that you now represent the heart of the one who sealed you. There will be moments ahead when the temptation will be to hide the seal, to blend in, to avoid the cost that comes with being set apart. But remember, heaven did not seal you in secret. The anointing you carry was meant to be seen, because its purpose is to shift the atmosphere around you, and this is where your testimony becomes more than personal. It becomes a shared flame. The seal on your life is not just for you to treasure. It's a sign for others that God still marks and calls his people today. This is why I encourage you. Don't let this moment fade quietly into memory. Spread it. When you like this message, you help it rise above the noise so more eyes can see. When you share it, you are sending the light into someone else's midnight. When you subscribe, you choose to stay connected to words that will keep fanning your flame. And when you donate, you are planting seeds into the soil of testimonies yet to be told. Because somewhere out there is another chosen one, tired and doubting, waiting for a word like this to remind them they are not forgotten. Your small act of sharing may be the lifeline they need. Your decision to help sustain the work could be the reason their faith is revived. You have been sealed, chosen, and sent, and heaven stands behind you. Not just to celebrate, but to move with you as you go. The scroll is closed for now, but your story is still unfolding, and the same hand that wrote your name is guiding your steps into places you never imagined you'd go. So lift your head, carry the seal boldly, and let the weight of heaven's trust be the wind that propels you forward. This is not the end of the chapter. It is the beginning of your next mission. And as you step into that mission, remember, the seal is not a weight to drag you down, but a banner raised high over your life. It tells the world and the unseen realms alike, you are claimed, you are sent, and you carry the authority of the one who called you. The crown is not given without purpose. It is not a mere ornament to make you appear royal. It is a sign of authority, the visible proof of an invisible victory. And now, after the sealing, heaven prepares the crown that matches your obedience. There is a perfect fit to this crown. It is not too heavy to bear, nor is it too loose to slip away. It was shaped through the battles you endured, molded by the nights you prayed without answers, refined in the seasons you obeyed without applause. Every jewel in it carries a story, and every gleam on its surface is a reflection of God's faithfulness to you. According to what is revealed in the first letter of Peter, chapter 5, verse 4, and when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that will never fade away. Oh, this is not just about a future moment in eternity. It begins here. Heaven is already acknowledging that your life bears the marks of one who will reign with Christ. The crown is an affirmation that you have been faithful with what you were given. And because of that, more will be entrusted to you. I think of a runner finishing a grueling race. His legs burn, his lungs ache, his clothes are damp with sweat. But as he crosses the line, Someone places a laurel crown on his head. It is not simply a trophy, it is recognition from all who watched the race that he did not quit. That is what this moment in your life represents. And yet, the crown is also a commissioning. It is a declaration to the spiritual realm. This one is set apart to lead, to influence, to carry the king's heart into places others cannot reach. The enemy hates this moment because a crowned believer becomes a threat he cannot easily dismantle. Perhaps you feel unworthy of such a gift. You remember your mistakes more than your victories. But the king places the crown not because you were perfect, but because you persevered. Heaven crowns the faithful, not the flawless. Imagine holding that crown in your hands for a moment before it rests upon your head. You feel its weight, not a crushing weight, but a grounding one. It reminds you that your life is not your own, that every step from here carries a responsibility to live as one who reflects the King's image. This is why your testimony matters, now more than ever. There are others who need to see what it looks like to wear the crown humbly, yet confidently. There are those who will draw courage from your example, believing that if God could bring you through and honor you, He can do the same for them. And now, chosen one, I want you to mark this moment. Write the number 555 in the comments right now. Do it not as a superstition, but as a prophetic act, declaring that grace upon grace has brought you here, that the triple measure of His favor is resting on your life. When you write it, see yourself stepping into your next chapter, crowned, sealed, and ready. The crown you carry is not for vanity, it is for victory. It is the banner of a battle fought well, the emblem of a race finished strong, and as you move forward, it will remind you, and all who see you, that your story is proof of God's relentless faithfulness. The day will come when you will lay this crown at the feet of the one who gave it to you, not in loss, but in joy, knowing that every trial, every tear, and every triumph was worth it for His glory. Until then, you wear it here, as both a reminder and a weapon, standing in the authority Heaven has placed upon you. Carry it well. And as you walk forward with that crown, remember, it was not forged in the comfort of ease, but in the furnace of trials you thought might break you. Each jewel was set during the moments you chose faith over fear, obedience over compromise, and worship over despair. Let this crown be a living testimony that no storm was wasted, no tear unseen, and no battle fought in vain. There will be days ahead when the weight of responsibility feels heavy, but lift your eyes and recall whose hand placed it upon your head. The King Himself entrusted it to you, and He walks beside you to ensure you carry it well. Your crown is not a relic of the past. It is the compass pointing you toward the victories yet to come. The enemy does not acknowledge defeat easily. He thrives on denial, on pretending that the battle is still undecided. But there comes a moment, even in the realm of darkness, when he can no longer argue with reality. That moment has come for you. You may not have heard it with your ears, but in the unseen realm, the adversary has spoken your name with a grudging respect. Not admiration, but recognition. He knows now that you are not easily moved, not quickly deceived, and not willing to trade your calling for temporary relief. You are no longer just another target. You are a fortified place in the spirit. Think about how the enemy operates. He looks for openings, for cracks in the wall, for weak points in the armor. He thrives when believers live in ignorance of their authority. But with you, something has changed. You have faced his strategies, learned his patterns, and refused to be swayed. That makes you a far more difficult opponent than before. I think of Job. After the whirlwind of loss and pain, standing once more in God's favor. The enemy had accused him of only serving God because of blessing, but in the end, Job's integrity remained. The accuser was proven wrong. That's what your journey has done. It has shut the mouth of the one who said you would fall. There is a strange power in being underestimated. In earlier seasons, the enemy may have thought you would crumble at the first sign of trouble. And perhaps you even thought so yourself. But trial after trial, your roots went deeper. Attacks that once would have destroyed you now barely shake you. That transformation did not happen overnight. It was forged in fire. The ancient words recorded in the book of Micah, chapter 7, verse 8, declare, "Do not gloat over me, my enemy. Though I have fallen, I will rise. Though I sit in darkness, the Lord will be my light." This verse is not just poetry. It is a war cry. It is the statement of someone who refuses to let defeat define them. And when you live like this, it forces the enemy to recalculate his plans. I imagine a battlefield after a long fight. The enemy forces retreat. But before leaving, their commander glances back at the fortress they could not breach. There is a flicker of frustration, perhaps even fear. That's the scene in the spiritual realm now. You are that fortress, and your walls are no longer vulnerable in the same way they once were. The enemy's acknowledgement is not something you celebrate in pride. It is something you carry as sober awareness. It means you are now on a different tier of spiritual conflict. You have been moved from the beginner's ranks into the front lines where seasoned warriors stand, and with that comes both the honor of God's trust and the weight of greater responsibility. The devil does not waste resources. If he realizes that certain tactics no longer work on you, he will look for more subtle ways to interfere. This is why discernment will be your closest companion in the days ahead. But take heart, you have already proven that, with God, you can withstand his schemes. There's also a hidden blessing in this acknowledgement. It's a form of protection. When the enemy knows he cannot easily overthrow you, he often shifts his attention elsewhere. It does not mean attacks will never come, but it means you have stepped into a level of stability that many never reach. And here is the truth that ties it all together. His acknowledgement of defeat is also heaven's public vindication of you. For every whispered accusation in the shadows, there is now undeniable evidence in the light. Your faith is not theory, it is proven fact. You did not earn this by your own strength. The same God who stood with you in the valley is the one who empowered you to rise again. And now, as you continue forward, you do so not just as a survivor, but as a recognized force in the spiritual realm, one whose presence the enemy cannot ignore, and whose faith he cannot break. And as you move forward, remember this: the enemy's reluctant acknowledgement is not your destination, it's your launching point. Every battle he lost to you becomes a testimony that will strengthen others. Every scheme he failed to execute becomes another stone in the wall God is building through your life. You walk now with the quiet confidence of one who knows darkness has seen your light, and it could not put it out. Authority in the kingdom is never granted by accident. It is not seized by ambition, nor bought with influence. It is given by God to those who have been proven faithful in the secret place and steadfast in the public test. You have now stepped into that reality. Heaven has entrusted you with a weight of authority you did not carry before. This authority is not loud or self-promoting. It does not need to announce itself to be real. When you walk into a place, the spiritual atmosphere shifts not because of who you are in yourself, but because of the one who walks with you. Angels recognize it. Darkness senses it. The room changes when you arrive, not because you force it to, but because the seal and the crown you carry release a fragrance of the kingdom. In Scripture, we see this kind of authority in the life of Peter. After the resurrection, he was no longer the same man who once denied knowing Jesus. His words carried weight. His presence brought conviction, and his shadow even became a conduit for healing. That transformation didn't happen through mere knowledge. It came through fire, tested faith, and direct commissioning from the Lord. As was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 19, I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. And keys symbolize access and control. To be given the keys of the kingdom is to be entrusted with the ability to open and shut spiritual doors. This is the authority you now hold, not because you demanded it, but because you proved that your heart could handle it. Authority is weighty because it demands wisdom. A careless word can wound, and a prayer spoken without discernment can miss its target. But when your authority is under the guidance of the Spirit, even the smallest action can carry eternal impact. A gentle word can dismantle lies, and a single prayer can break generational chains. I think of a lighthouse keeper who tends the lamp faithfully every night. Ships navigating treacherous waters depend on that light, though the keeper never leaves his post or sails out himself. That's what authority often looks like: quiet stewardship that keeps others from destruction. You may not see the full extent of the lives your presence protects, but heaven does. With authority also comes the call to humility. Jesus, though possessing all authority in heaven and on earth, washed his disciples' feet. That was not a contradiction. It was a revelation of what true authority looks like. The higher the calling, the lower the posture. You are not called to lord your authority over others, but to serve in a way that reveals the King's heart. There will be moments when people notice the change in you, though they cannot explain it. They may seek your counsel, ask for your prayers, or feel strangely comforted by your presence. These are signs that your authority is active. It is not a badge you wear for recognition. It's a covering that shields, guides, and blesses those within its reach. But make no mistake, authority is also contested. The enemy will test it, probing for pride, impatience, or fear. The key to maintaining it is staying anchored to the one who gave it. Apart from him, authority becomes empty. In him, it becomes unshakable. In time, you will grow even more accustomed to this new mantle. You will discern spiritual currents more quickly, recognize hidden dangers more sharply, and carry solutions that are not from human strategy, but from divine insight. The weight on your shoulders will no longer feel foreign. It will feel like an extension of who you are becoming. You did not ask for this authority lightly, and God did not give it lightly. It was earned in the fires of persistence, sealed in the courts of heaven, and is now carried in your everyday steps. Walk in it not for your own glory, but as a living testament to the one who lifts the humble and entrusts his kingdom to those who will use it well. And as you step forward with this authority, let every decision, every word, and every prayer flow from the place of intimacy with God. Remember, it is not the loudness of your voice, but the depth of your surrender that makes heaven move. Lead quietly, stand firmly, and let the kingdom's weight rest fully upon you. The mantle you carry is not just for your own journey, it is for the path of others who will come after you. In the kingdom, a mantle is both a covering and a commissioning. It is placed on those chosen to walk ahead, to prepare the way where there has been no clear road. A forerunner does not wait for the crowd's approval. They move when heaven speaks. Even if the ground ahead seems unbroken and the terrain unknown, they carry a vision not everyone can see yet. That vision pulls them forward, through valleys, across deserts, and over mountains, until others can follow in the path they've made. I think of John the Baptist, living in the wilderness, wearing camel's hair, and eating locusts with honey. He did not look like the religious leaders of his time, nor did he fit the mold of what people expected in a prophet, but he carried a mantle that made him unshakable in his mission to prepare the way for the Lord. As the Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah, chapter 42, verse 3, a voice of one calling, "In the wilderness prepare the way for the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God." To carry the mantle of a forerunner means you will sometimes walk alone before others catch up. It means you will bear misunderstanding, criticism, and even rejection, not because you are wrong, but because you are early. You are not sent to blend in with the crowd, you are sent to mark the trail for them. The mantle is heavy at times. It carries the weight of responsibility, the urgency of the message, and the compassion for those who do not yet see what you see. But it also carries the reward of seeing lives changed, because you chose to obey before it was easy. A forerunner often walks into territories the enemy claims as his own. The ground may be dry, resistant, or hostile, but the mantle you carry is more than cloth. It is a visible declaration in the spiritual realm that you have been authorized to claim this place for the kingdom. You may not see it yet, but your obedience is shaping the landscape. Paths are forming where there were none. Wells are being dug where there was only dry soil. And soon, others will find refreshment in the places where you labored in faith. So mark this moment. Type "path ready" in the comments, not as a casual phrase, but as a prophetic declaration that the way you are preparing is open for others to walk. When you type it, see the road before you illuminated, every obstacle cleared by the hand of God. The mantle of the forerunner is not given to everyone. It is entrusted to those who have proven they will carry it with both courage and humility. You are one of them, and because of that, what you start will outlive you, blessing generations you may never meet. And as you carry this mantle forward, you know that the road will not always be smooth, but it will always be guided. Every step you take is a step that alters the ground for those behind you. You are breaking spiritual hard soil so that others can plant without resistance. You are building bridges where once there were only deep chasms. There will be moments when you feel the weight pressing heavily on your shoulders, and the temptation to lay it down will be strong. But remember, this mantle was not placed on you by men. It was laid upon you by the hand of heaven itself. The one who entrusted it to you walks the path with you. When fatigue comes, lift your eyes and see the faces of those yet to come. They will drink from wells you dug, walk on roads you cleared, and rest under the shade of trees you planted. That is the legacy of a forerunner. It is eternal, and it will never be forgotten. And when your journey feels hidden, remember that the most vital parts of a foundation are unseen. The highways you are building may not be visible to the casual observer, but heaven records every stone you lay. Angels walk the path with you, clearing obstacles you cannot see and strengthening your steps when the way feels steep. Your role is not to complete every work, but to ensure the road exists for others to advance. In time, they will add their own labor, and the kingdom will stretch further because you dared to begin. Hold fast to your calling, for the one who sent you will not leave you until the way he commanded is fully prepared. There comes a moment in the journey when the king himself calls you closer, not as a servant summoned for orders, but as a friend invited to sit and share his heart. This is what it means to be summoned to the king's table. It is not a place you earn by title or status. It is a place granted by invitation. The king's table is a place of intimacy. It is where strategies for the future are whispered, where wounds from battle are tended, and where the bread and wine of his presence restore your strength. Sitting here changes you, because proximity to the king reshapes how you see the world and how you see yourself. I think of Mephibosheth, the crippled son of Jonathan, who was brought into King David's palace and given a permanent seat at the royal table. He did nothing to earn it. It was a gift of covenant, a reminder that the king's kindness is greater than our limitations. As we are reminded in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 20, I stand at the door and knock. If you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in and eat with you. To eat with the king is to share not just food, but fellowship. It is to be strengthened for the road ahead, not in isolation, but in communion with the one who has walked every path you will ever take. At this table, the noise of the world fades. The king looks you in the eye, not to condemn, but to remind you of who you are in his sight. He speaks of things to come, assignments, promises, victories still ahead. And as you listen, something in you begins to rise again. But this table is not just for you. When you share what you've received here, you extend the invitation to others who are hungry for more than the scraps of the world. Your story becomes an open door for them to taste and see that the Lord is good. That is why moments like these must be multiplied. The words spoken here are too precious to be hidden. When you like this message, it helps it reach those who need a reminder that there is a seat for them at this table. When you share it, you are extending the king's invitation to someone who doesn't know they belong here. When you subscribe, you keep returning to this table, letting your spirit be fed regularly. And when you donate, you place bread into the hands of others, ensuring the feast continues far beyond what you could reach alone. The king's table is not like any other gathering place. Here, your scars are seen yet celebrated, because they tell of survival. Your weaknesses are acknowledged, but never mocked, because they have been met with his strength. Your failures are remembered only as proof of the grace that lifted you again. At the king's table, no one sits higher than another. All are equal in worth, equally loved, equally needed. You are not a guest passing through, you are family, and the place set for you will never be taken away. So linger here. Let the bread of his word nourish you. Let the wine of his spirit gladden your heart. Let the counsel of his voice direct your steps. And when you rise, carry the fragrance of this place into every corner of your world. The summons to the king's table is both a comfort and a commissioning. You are fed, so you can feed. You are restored, so you can restore. You are welcomed, so you can welcome others. Never forget your seat is secure. And the king delights in your company. And as long as you keep returning here, you will have everything you need for the journey ahead. And as you rise from the king's table, you do not leave his presence behind you. Carry it with you. Every step you take becomes an extension of the fellowship you shared. The warmth of his words lingers in your spirit. The strength of his provision fuels your journey. And the certainty of his favor becomes the banner you walk under into the next assignment. And when the road ahead feels uncertain, glance back in your spirit to that table. Remember the look in the king's eyes, the steadiness in his voice, and the promise woven into every word. Let those memories steady your hands, strengthen your heart, and remind you that you never walk into any place without his presence beside you. The commissioning of the chosen is unlike any earthly assignment. It is not a contract with terms you can negotiate, nor a job you can resign from when it becomes difficult. It is a sacred entrustment, sealed in the courts of heaven, delivered directly into the hands of those who have proven they will steward it faithfully. When heaven commissions you, it is not merely sending you somewhere, it is sending you as someone. You go as a carrier of light, as a living testimony that God still moves through yielded vessels. You go with an authority that has been tested, a faith that has been refined, and a heart that has been prepared to bear the weight of the task. I think of Isaiah, standing before the throne in a vision, hearing the voice of the Lord asking, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" In that moment, Isaiah's response, "Here am I, send me," was not born from eagerness alone. It was the cry of a man who had been cleansed, changed, and made ready to represent the one who called him. As the prophet Jeremiah records in chapter 1, verse 7, "But the Lord said to me, do not say, I am too young. You must go to everyone I send you to, and say whatever I command you." And commissioning often comes with assignments that stretch you beyond what you think you can do. It will take you into unfamiliar places, into the company of people you might never have chosen to encounter, and into battles you could not have imagined. But the one who sends you also goes with you. His presence is your provision, and his word is your weapon. There is a solemnity to this moment. You realize that what you carry is not your own. It belongs to the King. The message you speak is not for your glory, but for his. The results are not yours to control. Only the obedience to go where he sends you and to say what he gives you to say. I picture a royal envoy preparing to depart from the palace. The scroll in his hand contains the king's decree, sealed with the royal signet. His journey may take him across dangerous lands, but the authority of that seal travels with him. That is the image of your commissioning. You carry a message with eternal weight, backed by the full authority of the kingdom. Commissioning also means being entrusted with the king's reputation. You become a living representative of his nature. How you walk, how you speak, how you treat others will either confirm or contradict the message you carry. This is why heaven does not commission lightly. The preparation is long, the testing is deep, and the refining is thorough. Yet, even with the weight of this responsibility, there is an unshakable joy that comes with being sent. To know that the Creator of all things has chosen you for a specific work is a truth that will keep your feet steady even when the path is steep. And there is something else. Commissioning is rarely just about you. In carrying out your assignment, you will unlock doors for others, shift spiritual climates in regions, and set the stage for breakthroughs you may never see with your own eyes. Your obedience now will ripple forward, affecting generations yet to come. Do not mistake the commissioning for the end of the journey. It is a new beginning. It is the moment when all the lessons, trials, and victories you have walked through are gathered together and put to work for the sake of the kingdom. The seasons of waiting, the battles fought in secret, the tears shed in the night, all of it has prepared you for this moment. The King's voice is clear. Go, not in your own strength, but in the strength he provides, not with your own wisdom, but with the words he will put in your mouth. And as you go, remember, you do not carry this commissioning alone. The one who called you is the one who sustains you. And as you take your first steps under this commissioning, feel the weight of heaven at your back, not as a burden, but as a steadying force. Every step is anchored by the prayers of those who have gone before. Every breath strengthened by the Spirit within you. The path ahead may be unfamiliar, but it is already marked by the King's footsteps. You walk not into uncertainty, but into the certainty of his will unfolding through your life. The sword placed in your hand is not ornamental. It is not for display in a case or for stories of battles long past. It is a living weapon, forged for this exact season, balanced perfectly for your grip, and entrusted to you because heaven knows you will wield it with precision and honor. This sword is both ancient and new ancient because it carries the eternal truth of God's word. New because it has been fitted to the unique call and authority on your life. It was not given in haste. It was formed through fire, hammered on the anvil of your trials, and sharpened by every moment you chose to stand firm. As we find in the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 4, verse 12, "For the word of God is alive and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. It penetrates even to dividing soul and spirit, joints and marrow. It judges the thoughts and attitudes of the heart." When you hold this sword, you are not holding mere words. You are holding a force that cuts through lies, breaks chains, and exposes the plans of the enemy. And this is not a weapon you wield recklessly. It is one you carry with deep reverence, knowing it was given for both defense and offense. I picture a seasoned warrior receiving a blade from his commander before a decisive battle. The commander locks eyes with him, silently conveying the trust, the expectation, and the certainty that this sword will be used well. That is the moment you are in now. The commander of heaven's armies has placed his weapon in your grasp. The sword will require your attention. It must be kept sharp through continual engagement with the word, polished in the secret place of prayer, and strengthened through daily obedience. A neglected sword grows dull. A wielded sword grows precise. There will be days when the battle is close and the strikes relentless. On those days, remember that your sword is not fragile. It was made to withstand the clash. And there will be days when you are called to raise it high, not to strike, but to signal victory and rally others to the fight. This weapon also carries a sound in the Spirit. When you declare the truth of God's word, it resounds like the clash of steel, sending tremors through the realm of darkness. Every verse spoken in faith becomes a strike against the enemy's advance. So, chosen one, mark this day, The sword is yours to carry and yours to wield. Write the number 222". The comments now, as a prophetic act that you walk in double witness and double confirmation of the authority placed in your hand. Let it be a declaration that you will not only carry the sword, you will use it for the glory of the King. This is the weapon that will not fail you, because its edge is kept sharp by the one who forged it. And as long as you keep it in your grasp, no darkness will prevail against the light it brings. And remember, this sword was never meant to be hidden. There will be moments when you will feel the Spirit nudge you to draw it, even in what seems like a peaceful season. That is because true warriors know that peace is preserved not by passivity, but by readiness. When the enemy prowls unseen, the mere sight of a drawn sword can send him fleeing before the first strike is even made. You will also find that this weapon is a builder's tool as much as it is a warrior's. It can cut away the overgrowth that blocks the path, carve out openings where walls have been built by fear, and shape spaces where the light can pour in your hands. It becomes not just an instrument of battle, but a means of making way for the kingdom to expand. But holding the sword comes with a sacred discipline. It requires discernment to know when to strike and when to sheath it. Reckless use can wound allies as easily as enemies. This is why the Spirit will train you in the art of precision, guiding your words so that they cut only where healing or freedom must come. There will be victories ahead that you will win because you spoke when the Spirit said, "Speak." There will be moments you will be glad you stayed silent when he whispered, "Not yet." The strength of the sword is not in constant swinging, but in obedient wielding. Carry it with confidence, but also with humility. It is not just a weapon in your hands, it is a covenant between you and the one who entrusted it. And as long as it remains in your grasp, no shadow will stand, and no chain will hold. The moment the sword was placed in your hand, heaven also assigned guardians to walk beside you. These are not casual companions. They are mighty beings created for the sole purpose of protecting and assisting those who carry the mandate of the King. Their presence is not ornamental, it is strategic. Angels are not merely symbols of comfort. In Scripture, they appear as warriors, messengers, and ministers of God's purposes. They are swift to act, precise in their assignments, and utterly loyal to the one who sends them. You may not see them with your eyes, but their movements shape the atmosphere around you, as is revealed in the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 11. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. Oh, these guardians are not bound by the limitations you face. They move at the speed of obedience, unhindered by barriers of time, space, or circumstance. When an assignment is given to them on your behalf, it will be carried out without hesitation. I think of Elisha's servant in the city of Dothan, surrounded by enemy forces. Fear gripped him until Elisha prayed for his eyes to be opened. Suddenly, he saw the hills filled with horses and chariots of fire, heaven's army standing ready. That vision was not a poetic metaphor. It was a glimpse into a reality that is just as true for you now. Your guardians have been assigned with full knowledge of your calling. They know the terrain ahead, the threats that may arise, and the best way to shield you from harm while ensuring you fulfill your mission. Their presence does not remove the need for wisdom, but it does ensure you are never truly alone in any battle. Sometimes, their work is obvious: deliverance from an accident, protection from sudden harm, a miraculous escape from danger. Other times, it is hidden, an obstacle that never appears because they removed it before you reached it. A snare dismantled before it could be set. These guardians are not idle when you rest. Even in your sleep, they stand, watch. When you pray, they respond to the alignment of your words with heaven's will. When you worship, they join in, their voices harmonizing with the praise that shakes the unseen realm. It is important to remember that angels act under God's command, not ours. While they may respond to our declarations of truth, their allegiance is to the King. This is why staying aligned with His will is the surest way to ensure their constant activity on your behalf. There will be moments when you sense them, near a sudden awareness of safety, a peace that settles when danger should have stirred fear, or even a prompting to pause or change direction. Pay attention to these moments. Often, they are the result of angelic intervention. Your guardians also serve as witnesses. They see your faithfulness in secret, your perseverance in trials, and your acts of obedience when no one else is watching. They carry these reports before the throne, where your faith is recorded and honored. Do not underestimate the significance of their companionship. They are part of the King's strategy to ensure you finish the race set before you. While you walk in authority, they walk in power that complements your calling, forming a partnership that makes you nearly untouchable in the spiritual realm when you remain under God's covering. One day, when all is revealed, you will see the full extent of their work, the battles fought on your behalf, the dangers turned away, the unseen enemies scattered. Until then, walk with confidence, knowing the guardians assigned to you are not only present but actively engaged in every step of your journey. And when that day comes, the revelation will overwhelm you not with fear, but with gratitude. You will see how often the path ahead was cleared before you even set foot on it. How many arrows were intercepted before they could reach you, and how many nights you slept while warriors stood watch. You will understand that their presence was never random, but written into your destiny before you were born. Every mission, every trial, every assignment you completed was safeguarded by their obedience to the King's command. The moments you thought you barely made it through were, in truth, victories already secured in the unseen realm. This knowledge should not make you reckless, it should make you bold. Not bold in your own strength, but in the confidence that heaven's resources are actively deployed for your success. The guardians remain with you still, and they will not depart until your race is finished and your calling fulfilled. There is a shaking coming, not the gentle tremor that rattles loose dust, but the kind that changes landscapes, the kind that tests the foundations of everything built by human hands. Yet you, chosen one, have been prepared to stand when the ground beneath others gives way. This stability is not born of stubbornness or willpower. It comes from being anchored to something immovable. Over the years, storms have beaten against you, winds have howled, and floods have tried to uproot you. But each trial only drove your roots deeper into the bedrock of God's faithfulness. As the psalmist wrote in the book of Psalms, chapter 62, verse 6, "Truly He is my rock and my salvation, He is my fortress. I will not be shaken." Now, when the shaking intensifies, many will look for safety in temporary structures, systems, resources, relationships that seem secure but cannot withstand the pressure. You will be different. Your stability will not come from what you possess, but from who possesses you. I think of a lighthouse standing firm in a violent storm. Waves slam against its base. Winds scream around its tower. Yet its light keeps shining, guiding ships to safety. That is what you will be in the coming days, a fixed point of hope for those whose world is breaking apart. This is why you have been trained to endure. The delays, the disappointments, the losses you've faced, they were not just random hardships. They were part of the preparation, strengthening your faith so it could hold steady under weight that would crush others. When the shaking comes, it will not be just physical or political, it will be spiritual. Beliefs will be tested, loyalties revealed, and foundations exposed. In that moment, your unshakable stance will speak louder than any sermon. People will watch how you respond when everything else is uncertain, and your peace will draw them to the rock you stand on. It is important to understand that being unshakable does not mean being unaffected. You may feel the tremors. You may grieve losses. And you may even have moments of uncertainty. But what will set you apart is that you will not crumble. Your faith will bend without breaking. And your hope will remain anchored in the one who does not change. I am reminded of the 3 Hebrew men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, standing before the furnace. The heat was real. The threat was real. But their trust in God was immovable. When they emerged, not only were they unharmed, but the fire had burned away their bonds. The shaking that comes will do the same for you. It will remove what is unnecessary and leave you freer than before. Your role in that season will be more than survival. It will be leadership. While others scramble for stability, you will point to the true source of it. Your life will become a testimony that the Rock of Ages is still unshaken, still unbroken, still able to hold those who lean on him. Do not fear the shaking. Welcome it as confirmation that your foundation is sure. The same God who upheld you in past storms will uphold you in what is to come. And as you stand, you will find that your unshakable faith becomes a refuge for many, a shelter in the storm, and a beacon in the night. And when the shaking passes, the landscape will not look the same. Some structures will have fallen completely, others will be standing but cracked, in need of rebuilding. You, however, will still be rooted, your foundation not only intact, but stronger because of the pressure it endured. This endurance will give you a unique voice in the aftermath. People will seek you out, not because you avoided the shaking, but because you endured it without losing your footing. They will want to know how you stayed anchored, and you will be able to point them to the only foundation that never shifts. Your own life will serve as living proof that storms do not have the final word. The shaking will reveal that you are not defined by the chaos around you, but by the unchanging presence within you. And as rebuilding begins, you will find yourself positioned to help lay new foundations, not on the unstable sands of human wisdom, but on the eternal rock of God's truth. The same hands that withstood the storm will help others steady themselves. Every trial you have faced until now will suddenly make sense. The strength you carry is not for you alone. It is for those who will need a place to stand when everything else falls away. And in that moment, you will know the shaking was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal that you could not be moved. There is a fire now in your voice that was not there before. It is not the fire of anger or self-assertion, but the fire of heaven pure, steady, and undeniable. Every word you speak, when yielded to the Spirit, carries weight that cannot be ignored. This is what it means when your voice now carries fire. This fire was not lit in a moment of ease. It was kindled in the furnace of trials, fanned by the winds of adversity, and kept alive through nights when you thought your voice was gone forever. Yet here it is stronger, sharper, and more anointed than you imagined it could be. As we find in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 20, verse 9, His word is in my heart, like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in. Indeed, I cannot. When you speak now, the spiritual realm responds. Chains are loosened, lies are exposed, and hope is rekindled in hearts that had nearly gone cold. This is not because of eloquence or persuasion. It is because the flame inside you burns with the truth of God. Your voice is not just for declarations in public. It is for whispered prayers that shift atmospheres in private. It is for conversations where a single spirit-led sentence opens someone's eyes. It is for moments when silence is broken by a timely word that redirects a person's entire path. But fire must be stewarded. It must be fed with the fuel of God's word, guarded from the winds of distraction, and kept pure by the surrender of your heart. If left untended, it can wane. If misused, it can wound. That is why the Spirit trains you to speak only when He prompts, and to say only what He gives. There is also a responsibility to amplify this fire beyond your own reach. The testimony of what God has done in you can ignite others. When you like this message, you help the flame travel farther, reaching those in places you could never go alone. When you share it, you pass the torch into someone else's hands, giving them light in their own darkness. When you comment, you declare with your own words how the fire of God is moving in you. Your testimony might be the spark another heart needs. When you subscribe, you choose to keep returning to the fire, letting it keep your spirit warm and alive. And when you donate, you provide the oil that keeps the lamps burning for many more who need to hear this word. Imagine the ripple effect. One flame becoming 2 becoming 20, until a whole region glows with the light of the gospel. This is the multiplying nature of fire in the kingdom. It spreads when those carrying it are willing to release it. And here is the beautiful truth. The enemy cannot put out a fire that God Himself has lit. He can try to smother it with discouragement, to drown it in doubt, or to isolate you so the flame dies in loneliness. But this fire is sustained by the breath of God, and no amount of darkness can extinguish it. Your role is to keep speaking, not to shout over the noise, but to let the purity of the flame speak for itself. Sometimes it will roar like a bonfire, other times it will glow like embers. Slow but steady. Both are powerful, and both have their time. Carry this fire into every room, every conversation, every opportunity, and when you see another struggling to keep theirs alive, lend your flame to them. This is not a race to see whose light is brightest. It is a mission to see the world lit with the truth and love of God. You are a torchbearer now, and heaven smiles every time you choose to let that fire burn. And in the days ahead, you will find that this fire is not just for moments of ministry, but for the everyday, when you encourage a weary soul, when you speak truth into confusion, when you pray quietly for someone who doesn't even know you're interceding. The more you give it away, the stronger it will burn within you. There will be seasons when the fire roars, and seasons when it glows softly, but both are equally powerful in the hands of the King. Trust Him to determine its intensity. and be ready in every moment. For this flame is not a possession, it is a partnership with heaven. And as long as you keep yielding to the one who lit it, it will never go out. There is a shift that happens when you have walked long enough in obedience. You begin to carry not only the fire of the King, but also his fragrance. This is not a physical scent, yet it is unmistakable. In the spiritual realm, it is the aroma of someone who has been in the presence of God, someone who carries the residue of the throne room into every space they enter. The Apostle Paul spoke of this when he described believers as the aroma of Christ to those being saved and to those perishing, to those hungry for truth. Your presence brings comfort, hope, and conviction that draws them closer to the source, to those resisting God. It may stir discomfort or even opposition, because light always exposes what hides in darkness. As the scriptures declare in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 2, verse 15, "For we are to God the pleasing aroma of Christ among those who are being saved and those who are perishing." This fragrance cannot be fabricated. It is not achieved through eloquence, image, or effort. It comes only from proximity, from dwelling in the courts of the King, from worship that is more than songs, from prayer that lingers long after words have ended. The more time you spend with him, the more your life carries evidence of his nearness. Think of Moses descending from Mount Sinai after speaking with God. His face shone so brightly that the people were afraid to come near him. That radiance was not from his own nature, it was the overflow of being in God's presence. In the same way, you now carry an unseen radiance that the spiritual realm instantly recognizes. This is why you may have noticed changes in the way people respond to you. Strangers open up without knowing why, feeling a peace they can't explain. Others may avoid you, unable to be at ease because your presence stirs something in their spirit. Neither reaction is about you, it is about the one whose fragrance you bear. Carrying this fragrance is both a privilege and a responsibility. It is a privilege because it marks you as one who has been close to the King. It is a responsibility because it calls you to live in a way that keeps that fragrance pure. Compromis dulls it, pride distorts it, and neglect causes it to fade. But when kept pure, this fragrance becomes a silent yet powerful testimony. Without a single word, you can shift an atmosphere. Without any announcement, you can draw hearts toward God. It is not your charisma that does it, it is the residue of heaven clinging to your life. Sometimes this fragrance will act like a key, opening doors that no effort could have unlocked. People of influence may invite you into spaces simply because they sense something different about you. Opportunities may arise without striving, because the scent you carry precedes your arrival. Other times, this fragrance will serve as a shield. The enemy recognizes it and knows you are marked. There are battles he will not even attempt because he smells the victory of the King on you. It is not intimidation from you, it is recognition of the one you represent. To maintain this fragrance, you must return often to the source. The busier the road becomes, the more intentional you must be about retreating into his presence. The fragrance is not a permanent stamp, it is renewed each time you draw near, refreshed each time you surrender, intensified each time you worship without holding back. You may not always be aware of how strongly you carry it, but those around you will. The kingdom advances not only through words and deeds, but also through the silent witness of a life soaked in God's presence. That is what you are becoming, a living reminder of his reality. a vessel through which his nearness is made tangible. Guard it well. For this fragrance is not for you alone. It is meant to awaken the hunger for heaven in everyone it touches. And as you walk carrying this fragrance, remember, it often speaks before you do. Long before a conversation begins, the spiritual atmosphere has already shifted because you entered the room. This is why your presence in certain places is not random, it is strategic. The king sends his fragrance ahead of you as a silent herald of his kingdom, softening hearts and preparing the soil. You may never fully know the seeds planted in these unseen moments, but heaven does. And one day, you will see how the aroma you carried became the invitation that led many home to him. There comes a point in the journey when you realize the path behind you is as much a testimony as the path ahead. Every step, every detour, every delay has been woven into a story that only heaven could have authored. You are not the same person who began this race. You carry the scars of battle, the wisdom of experience, and the quiet confidence of one who has seen God's faithfulness firsthand. This is the stage where your life becomes less about proving yourself and more about pouring yourself out. You are no longer driven by the need to be seen. You are anchored in the assurance that you are known. What once felt like a striving for approval has been replaced by a deep rest in your identity as the chosen one of God. As the psalmist writes in the book of Psalms, chapter 118, verse 23, "The Lord has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes." The marvel is not that you made it, it is that you made it still carrying your light. The enemy tried to put it out. Storms tried to drown it, and seasons of silence tried to smother it. But here you stand, still burning. This final stretch of your journey is not about speed, it is about faithfulness. The king is less concerned with how quickly you run and more concerned with how you finish. Your task now is to keep your flame steady, your heart pure, and your steps aligned with his voice. I think of the Apostle Paul near the end of his life, writing, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." This is the legacy you are building, a testimony that your calling was not abandoned when it became hard, that your obedience did not falter when the cost increased. The wisdom you carry now is not just for your benefit, it is for those who are still in the early miles of their journey. They will look to you for counsel, for encouragement, for a living example of what it means to endure. Your story will give them language for their own struggles, hope for their own valleys, and a vision for their own finish line. But finishing well is not a passive process. It requires intentional choices each day, choosing humility over pride, service over recognition, faith over fear. It means guarding your heart against the cynicism that sometimes comes with experience, and instead keeping your spirit fresh with gratitude and awe. There is also a tenderness that comes in this season. You have learned that strength is not always loud, and that leadership is often expressed through listening. You understand now that the greatest victories are sometimes the quiet ones: restored relationships, healed hearts, hidden acts of obedience that heaven celebrates even if no one else sees them. The King takes delight in a faithful finisher. When you cross that final line, it will not be the applause of men that matters. It will be the smile of the one who called you, the voice that says, "Well done." And until that day, you keep walking, not with the frantic pace of one trying to outrun time, but with the steady rhythm of one whose steps are ordered by the Lord. You know where your strength comes from. and you know where you are headed. This is the beauty of the final stretch. It is not the end of your story, but the beginning of its eternal echo. What you carry now will ripple into eternity, shaping lives long after yours is done. And that is why you finish, not just to end well, but to leave behind a trail of light for others to follow. And as you walk these last stretches, you may notice the road feels quieter. It is not because nothing is happening, it is because the noise of striving has been replaced by the steady hum of purpose. You no longer need constant confirmation to keep going. You carry the inner knowing that you are exactly where the King wants you to be. Along the way, you will see faces, some familiar, some new, who will join you for parts of the journey. Each encounter is a reminder that your story was never meant to be walked in isolation. You are part of a greater procession, a lineage of faithful ones who carried their own light to the end. When the moment finally comes to lay down your torch, it will not be in defeat, but in victory, knowing that the flame you carried still burns in those you've touched, and will burn long after you've stepped into the eternal presence of the King. And now, chosen one, as this journey's final words reach you, understand what you've received here is not just inspiration, it is an impartation. You have been reminded of who you are, why you are here, and the power that now moves through your life. The King never pours out without purpose. And this word was meant to equip you for the days ahead. There are hearts waiting for the light you now carry. Some are just one encouraging word away from stepping back into hope. When you like this message, you send that spark farther than your own reach, touching places your feet may never walk. When you share it, you open a door for someone else to encounter the same truth that has strengthened you today. When you comment, you put your testimony into the atmosphere. Your own words could be the lifeline another soul is praying for. When you subscribe, you return to this well of living water, keeping your spirit fed and your fire alive. And when you donate, you place fuel in the hands of the kingdom's messengers, ensuring the flame spreads to every corner it's called to reach. Every one of these acts is more than a click, it is a seed. And seeds, sown in faith, always produce a harvest. The ripple of what you choose to do right now will move far beyond this moment. So walk forward with your crown held high, your heart set firm, and your light burning steady. Heaven has not finished with you, yet the best pages of your story are still being written.